Hello, you all are joining me this evening at my house. I actually have some brownies baking in my oven. Drinking a little mug right here. And just had some thoughts on my mind about brainstorming for your cause effect essays. I know a lot of you are in the process of picking your topic, and then you're going to have to start developing some ideas around it. And for our last paper, the definition paper, I included some of handouts, some written handouts that I had done with brainstorming, because I know that some of you like the hands-on stuff. But I also know that some of you are probably oral learners, meaning it helps when you hear things talked out, or you can listen to it. So I'm going to talk through some of my brainstorming just to give you an example and an idea of how I'm approaching this. And the thing is I'm writing along right alongside of you with this assignment. It's one of the things I like to do with students because it just keeps my mind where yours is. And I think it makes me more effective, and it also makes me more helpful to you. So a lot of you have heard me over this past week talk about my topic, and I always start with a question rather than just a general topic. I ask it as a question because I just find that fuels my ideas better, because then I have something to answer. So the question there are actually a couple questions bouncing around in my head. First question is, what causes the infamous freshman 15? If you haven't heard of it before, there's this idea that when you go to college, you end up gaining 15 pounds that first year that you're there. And it's just something that's kind of intriguing to me. I've been thinking recently about health and body image and teaching college. I guess that's part of the reason it's on my mind, because I'm around college students a lot. And then I think the secondary question that came to mind is, I wonder if that idea is fact or fiction. Is the idea of the freshman 15 actually true, or is it just a myth? And so I wrote those couple of questions down. I do a lot of my brainstorming by hand. It's just my preference. So you might do your brainstorming by typing on your computer, or by recording yourself talking, but I'm actually writing mine out by hand. So I started with my brainstorming, and I don't actually think this was the best idea, and I'll tell you why. I started out by trying to answer all the topic proposal questions, but I quickly realized about 3 questions in, I hadn't done enough brainstorming to really be able to answer them effectively. So I stepped back and I created, and I'll show you this, I'll just hold it up in front of the screen. I created a list, and on one side of my page it says causes, and on the other side of my page it says effects. Because at this point, I'm really not sure which of those my paper is going to focus on, but I know I need to pick one primary focus, and but I first need to see what all's in my brain, what I'm thinking, what I already know. And I'm doing this before I do any research, because I really want to document where my thoughts are at first, because that's a good way to help ensure that my voice stays prominent and primary when I actually go to write, and then the research just acts as support. So I'll read down to you the list of causes and effects, and you can kind of see where my thinking is. So for causes, I thought maybe some of the things that cause the freshman 15, and again, I'm assuming it's true in this brainstorm, maybe your metabolism starts slowing down when you get to college. It changes throughout your lifetime. Maybe that's one of those points. Maybe people are more sedentary in college because they're studying more than they had to maybe in college. Maybe one of the causes is having more access to unhealthy options than maybe you had in college or under the supervision of your parents. The cafeteria is basically a buffet, so it's not. My assumption is you can go back and get as much food as you want, any combination of food. Your plate doesn't have to be balanced. There's always dessert. There's always soda. There's always those extras. So that buffet style may lead to the freshman 15. I mentioned this, new independence, no parental oversight once you're in college. Stress could contribute to the freshman 15. An eating disorder could contribute to the freshman 15, meaning, maybe eating disorders are more frequent in college age students. I don't know that. Again, just brainstorming, thinking, and it have to be something I would confirm. A lot of us are rushed when we're in college, so making decisions about convenience instead of quality or nourishment is what leads what could lead to the freshman 15. So then I brainstorm for the effects. Some of the effects of the freshman 15, it causes you, obviously, obvious one, to gain extra weight, could make you more self-conscious. You could get ridiculed by family and friends or poked fun of, or just otherwise kind of made to feel bad about it if you gain the 15 pounds. It could be the onset of some bad habits. You could be establishing some bad habits once you get to that point of having gained that weight. It could create feelings of hopelessness or frustration. It could create possible health effects or health issues. Your clothes may not fit, so you might need new clothes, which isn't always a bad thing. Get new clothes, right? It could also, maybe on a more positive side, be a wake-up call to making personal choices and taking responsibility for those. And then below that, I kind of started thinking there are some categories of effects that I could break this down into. So there are emotional consequences to gaining the freshman 15. There are physical consequences, but then there's also the learning potential. So I have my list, and what I was surprised by with this brainstorming is that I actually had almost as many effects as I did causes. When I first started brainstorming, I really thought, well, I can talk more easily about the causes. But what I was finding as I wrote is that the effects were what were more interesting to me. And so I wrote about that a little bit. I did a little short free write where I just said, turns out I brainstormed a good list of effects. So now it's a question of audience. I got to shush my dogs. Hold on. Stop, guys. And I said, so I'm assuming the state newspaper as my publication source. They've got a general audience, but when I think of, and again, this is stuff I'd have to confirm, but when I think of newspaper readers, I think of older adults. I think of people that probably have a variety of political opinions, though we are in South Carolina and it tends to be a more Republican state, so maybe more conservative, politically conservative individuals. But because of that, I have to think about how the issue of the freshman 15 intersects with older conservative people because they're well past their freshman year of college. But what I thought of is that a lot of these older people may be parents or grandparents of college students and concerned about their college students' health and well-being. So I started thinking about how this is a lifestyle issue. It's not super polarizing. People aren't having big arguments about necessarily whether it's true or not. They just may have some different opinions about it and may be interested in the conversation, but I don't think it's something that's really going to get people super riled up, even though, again, they would be interested in it. So as I continued to think about audience, of course, purpose came to mind. Well, why would I write about the freshman 15 to parents and grandparents of college students? And so perhaps, and again, I'm still brainstorming, so none of this is written in stone. Perhaps my purpose could be to equip these readers to prepare or support their own college students when they face this issue or if they face this issue. All right, so that's my initial brainstorming. I'm actually going to stop this video. I'm going to create a second one where I do some more in-depth brainstorming about a causal chain. But I would encourage you, if you haven't made a list yet, so what's your topic? What question are you asking? And then brainstorm a list of causes and effects. Open your mind up to both of those. That's what I want you to do right now. That's your challenge. That would be your next step.